Great. Hi, today we are having a webinar called Recreation with Purpose, the Function of Recreation in Special Education. So it's all about play. We're going to talk a bit today about recreation and fun in schools. We have really two amazing guests. Before I introduce them, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Children's Specialized Hospital. We're the nation's leading provider of inpatient and outpatient care for children from birth to 21 years of age facing special health challenges, from chronic illnesses to complex physical disabilities to a full scope of developmental behavioral and mental concerns. CSH's philosophy of partnering with every child and family is made possible by the Family-Centered Care Department, which is comprised of employees who are parents and family members of children who have received or are still receiving services at Children's Specialized. With 15 different locations in New Jersey, CSH includes one state-of-the-art inpatient facility in New Brunswick, numerous outpatient facilities covering an array of programs and services, and a long-term care facility which provides exceptional care for children with complex medical conditions who cannot be cared for at home. So now I'm going to introduce you to Caitlyn and Amanda. If you would like to introduce yourselves, and we can get along with our webinar today.
Sure. Adrian, could you pull up and share the PowerPoint with us, please?
You're not seeing it?
No.
No. Oh my goodness, because I see it on mine. I'm so sorry.
That's
So
okay.
go, and that is really interesting. I see it there. Do we see
Yes.
see it? Right?
Yep. Thank you.
You see your names correct or no?
Yes.
Yes, my goodness, I thought I saw it before. Thank you. Hi,
That's
Belle.
okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Caitlyn Foelsch. I'm the manager of the Community Recreation Department at Children's Specialized Hospital. I am you'll see the first initials after my name, CTRS, is a Certified Therapeutic Recreation Specialist, or you may also hear it as a recreational therapist. I have been with Children's for over 12 years. I went to Kane University for my undergrad in recreational therapy and actually for my master's in health administration as well. I previously worked in inpatient in the rehab department on the infant toddler team for a number of years, and then I transitioned over to the community department where I oversee staff that provide recreational opportunities for children in the community. So not patients at the hospital or in long-term care, but more for the community members that are looking for those adapted recreational programs.
Hi, everyone, and I'm Amanda Villamar. I'm a non-attorney education advocate. I work privately, and I'm also affiliated with the Barger Gaines law firm. And I am also a social worker by training. I've worked in a variety of settings, including home-based programs, hospital settings, schools, and for the New Jersey's Parent Training Information Center, SPAN. But above all, I like to say that I am a parent of 3 beautiful children, 2 that have disabilities. And I'm very excited about today's topic because through all of my years in advocating for my daughter as a parent, I have really found that things like recreation and leisure activities and functional goals are really kind of a cornerstone in her development, well-being, and just overall, life well-being, I would say, throughout life. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just jump in here. And we're going to start by giving kind of an overview of some of the language that we can find in IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, that supports things like recreational therapy. And then Caitlyn is going to go a little bit more into sort of the meat of exactly what is that, what would it look like, and how can we make use of that. But we want to give you some tools that you can take with you if you are in a school-based setting. So the first thing that we want to just kind of do is give a very, very general overview of the IDEA, really more of a definition than an overview. So IDEA, which you will hear a lot, stands for Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It is a federal law entitling children to special services if a disability or disabilities significantly impact their ability to access the general education, and a specially designed educational program is needed. So there's a couple things that I want to point out when we're looking at that definition. The first thing is a significant impact. And when we talk about significant impact, when parents are saying, my kid is not eligible for an IEP, it's because they might be saying, the district might be saying that, there's not a significant impact in terms of accessing the IEP. And then the other thing is the specially designed program within that definition. I wanted to point that one out because sometimes I have families come to me saying, what's the key difference between like a 504 plan and an IEP? And how do I know that I need to elevate my child's support to an IEP? And so that is one of the key difference between 504s and IEPs, is this specially designed educational program. So the next thing is, now that we're diving into the IEP, going back to IDEA, the IDEA is what affords us that ability to have IEPs for our children that are found eligible. And just very generally speaking, when we're looking at IEPs, we are looking at two main or general purposes, and one would be having measurable goals in place. The other would be having access to related services and supplementary aids and those types of things that the district really needs to be able to provide to a child. So when we look at that, we're thinking of supported services as it is required to assist a student with a disability to benefit from special education. And it encompasses a wide range of things. It could be development, corrective, and or other support services, right? So what you see on this slide here is a list of related services that you would be able to gain access to if your child was found eligible for an IEP. And highlighted in yellow there is recreation, including therapeutic recreation. So that is really kind of the meat of this webinar today. That is what we want to really kind of dive into. But the key thing that I want to point out is that while we know of a lot of services, we know of speech services, for example, we hear a lot about occupational services and things like that, we often are short-sighted when it comes to that recreation or therapeutic recreation component. And so we want to really kind of highlight that as something that, a child can have access to. And when we look at the language found in IDEA, there is actual language that supports the need for these types of services. And I'm going to go ahead and, go ahead. I was going to say, turn it over to Caitlyn. Go ahead.
Sure. So what is recreational therapy? I'm sure, unfortunately, a lot of people have not heard of recreational therapy. And if you have, that's very exciting. I'm glad to hear that. But for anybody who has not, an overview of it is we use a holistic approach as recreational therapists. We look at all of the domains of each individual and look at what their abilities and their potential are. But everything is related to recreation, play, and leisure. And that difference is tailored towards the individual based on where they are at in their development and their age and life across the lifespan. So some of the important key points of recreational therapy is that we focus on restoring, remediating, and rehabilitating a person's level of functioning and making sure that they're as independent as possible in their life activities and their life pursuits. We make sure that we promote health and wellness, as well as reducing or eliminating the activity limitations and restrictions to be able to participate in various life situations. I've once heard a patient tell another therapist, a recreational therapist, that recreational saved me after I was already saved. So we are part of that interdisciplinary team where we work with the medical team, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, psychology, etc. But we are focusing on the quality of life and being able to give that purpose back. So being able to fill your free time, being able to be an active and participating member of community and society, being able to interact with your family or your friends or anybody in your close circle, and being able to do that as independently and successfully as possible. The interventions or therapies that we provide are done through play, recreation, and leisure interests, and it's essentially goal-directed and goal-based play and leisure. So recreational therapies are different from other therapies because we embrace that definition of health, which includes not only the absence of illness, but extends to enhancement of physical, cognitive, social, and emotional development and those domains for each individual, as I said. So individuals may participate fully and independently in whatever their chosen life pursuits are. And it could be anything from, like I said, sports, arts and crafts, going to dinner with, again, family, friends, loved ones, being an active member of community, volunteering, sitting and reading a book. It really depends on what is important to that person and being able to make sure that they can access it and be successful. And the unique feature that makes it different is the use of those recreational modalities. So how is it related to the IDEA Act is where making sure that in a school setting, you have that access to those free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. So there is a space for rec therapy to be able to apply to different domains and areas of each student's interests as they develop across the lifespan. And it may look like play and recreation again, but it's working on so many different things. So for example, something like playing Uno seems very simple and very not skilled, but there's a lot that you're actually working on. You're working on following multi-step directions. You're working on fine motor skills by either holding all of the cards or using a card holder and working on grabbing one and placing it down in front to put your card down. You're working on color recognition, number identification and recognition, turn taking, learning how to lose or win gracefully. You are learning how to be a part of a group and learning if you even like to play Uno or not. There's just so many levels that go into anything as simple as that. And it could also be as intense and involved as wheelchair soccer or wheelchair basketball or adapted kayaking. It really depends on, again, what that individual's interest is. So the key parts are within the IDEA, I really think looks at parts B and C, covering assistance for education of all children with disabilities, and then covering also for infants and toddlers, those early intervention and EI services. There is a huge opportunity for rec therapy in EI because we all know in those first 12 months and up to age 3 as well. There's a lot of development that's going on and it's happening very quickly and just every day, every minute they're learning and they're developing and they're growing. And something as simple as peekaboo or as simple as putting the shapes in the shape sorters is working on so many different things. Again, it's working on fine motor skills, it's working on shape recognition, it's working on problem solving, cause and effect, gross motor and strength and endurance by being able to tolerate sitting up to play and reach outside your base of support and be able to shift your weight to reach for a toy. Peekaboo is as simple as social skills, interacting with a loved one, that parent, caregiver, child bond. Everything is, there's a purpose to everything. And that's what we highlight as recreational therapists. So there is a lot of space for recreational therapy under the IDEA. Again, it's looking at those leisure functions and being able to figure out how it supports the child in their development. So, again, we want to make sure that the students are learning to use their leisure and recreation time constructively and that there's a lot of technology, screen time, all of that stuff nowadays. And not that that's bad. There is a place and a space for that and a time because those things can work on different skills in different ways, right? If you're working on a math game called Prodigy, again, you're working on math skills, you're working on problem solving, you're following directions, it's visual attention and following along with the screen. So there are benefits to that. And that can be done in a school setting. Depends on what the goal is and what we're working towards with that individual. Through the services, students can learn appropriate and functional rec and leisure skills that impact all aspects of life as they grow. Again, as you heard, it's those physical, social, emotional, and cognitive areas that are all encompassed and included in whatever intervention is being provided based on the goal that is identified by the therapist. The activities may be provided during the school day or in after-school programs in a school or community environment. There's a huge need for supports in after-school programs too, as well as during the day, because that's all kinds of potentially unstructured time. So it's learning how to use that time efficiently and effectively and productively and be able to play and socialize with peers appropriately, safely, and have fun. The activities may enhance the participants' outcomes in current and future interests and lifestyle. Again, these things have such a potential to make a lasting impact as the individual grows and develops. And it's important to lay that foundation now and at all stages. And even if there's a change, it's learning something new and how we can still incorporate and grow from there. So the benefits of recreational therapy and recreation, like I said, it's really looking at those domains. Again, I'm going to repeat constantly today: physical, social, emotional, and cognitive. It's all encompassing and looking at what is important to that individual and also what is identified by the clinician. So it's focusing on active care with clear goals to make real actual progress. Working on skills that we can use at home, in the community, in the school-based setting, playing with siblings, playing with friends, playing on the playground. It's not just during that therapy, structured adult-child, adult-client time. The care is aimed at lessening the challenges caused by your disability. Again, it's looking at what the abilities and the possibilities are and looking at the positive. Again, if the client is saying that they really want to play lacrosse and they have sustained a spinal cord injury and now they are paralyzed from the waist down and use a wheelchair as their primary means of mobility, how can we get you to lacrosse? How can we do that? We still have use of both of our arms. We can propel ourselves around. We can still use that lacrosse stick. We can throw, catch. Those are all of the skills that we're going to work on through that recreational therapy session. Providing therapy in affordable ways. Again, it can be done in individual or group settings. It can be done both ways. It can also be done in small groups, either one-on-one, so 2 individuals called a dyad, and those settings are actually really beneficial for social skill development, play development, but also just maybe having a little bit of a safer and lower stimulating and less intimidating space, depending on what we're working on and what the individual's abilities and comfort levels are. We, again, support the person as a whole. We're looking at that holistic approach to identify areas of improvement physically, socially, emotionally, cognitively. And we also try to work on, there's a big component on leisure education as a recreational therapist. So we try to identify what community resources are available locally, but also outside. If there is nothing locally, how can we get to something that is really important to us? So looking at different township recreation programs, looking at any hospitals such as Children's Specialized Hospital that offers recreational programs, looking at county parks systems, looking at national park systems. If you really want to go to Acadia National Park in Maine, what kind of accommodations do they have per the ADA, right? How accessible is it? And let's look into that so that we can plan a trip that you'd like to go on either by yourself, with your friends, or with your family. And looking at, again, once we are home and in our routine, how are we still incorporating these leisure aspects into our life to keep and maintain and or improve that quality of life? We want to build skills to help in everyday life. Again, it's just so important for everybody's quality of life. Sometimes my leisure at the end of a day is just sitting on the couch and watching TV. How can these individuals do that? Do they need closed captioning if they have some sort of an auditory disability? Do they need assistance with a remote? Do they need a ability with a smart TV to have verbal commands on the TV? It depends, but there are all of these things that we have to look at to be able to make that person as independent as possible. And yep, thank you.
Okay, so I just kind of want to take what Caitlin said and put a button on it and tie it all together in terms of bringing it back to how some of these things can be used in a school-based setting. So how does the IDA mention extracurricular and non-academic activities? Well, if we go back and we look at the language, section 300, 320 has a statement there, and it says, each child's IEP must contain a statement of the special education and related services and supplementary aids and services based on peer review research to the extent practicable to be provided to the child or on behalf of the child, and a statement of the program modifications or supports for school personnel that will be provided to enable the child to advance appropriately toward attaining the annual goals. And so one thing I just want to note with that right there is that it's important that we're not just talking about these things and doing these things, but that we actually link it to a need through an extensive evaluation process. And then based off of the needs that are flagged in the evaluation process, that we are developing goals and that those goals go into the IEP, because we want to make sure that these are goals, that they're attainable. And then if you look at number 2, that it involves to be involved in the making progress in the general education or curriculum standard, right? So we want to make sure that these are goals, but then also that these are something that are attainable and that there are monitoring procedures in place, and that we are ultimately gauging and seeing that progress that we want to see in terms of as it relates to the general education curriculum. And then finally, that we want to make sure that we're giving these opportunities in places that are not just in complete isolation or segregation, right? So our kids have the right to be educated and to participate with other children with disabilities and non-disabled children in all of these activities that were described. Caitlin did a really good job at describing a lot of these things that kids can do and some goals that we could use in sort of a recreational component. You'll also notice that there's language there that says we need to make sure that our children have access to extracurricular and other non-academic activities. So again, when we are thinking about developing the IEP and doing a full and extensive evaluation, we're not just grounding ourselves to things that we see in academics. We want to really go beyond that and look at, just like Caitlin had said, the physical, social, emotional, functional, and cognitive domains. And we want to be able to flag these things through a nice evaluation procedure, and then to translate that into goals that will ultimately lead to a truly individualized IEP. And then the question becomes, how are we going to really carry that stuff out? And so all of those things are things that we want to be thinking about and considering and discussing with our child study team meetings, in our child study team meetings as we develop the IEP. Okay, so with that all in mind, the question then becomes, how do you request a recreation evaluation? And so what I always tell parents is make sure that this is a request that goes in writing. You don't want this to be something that you are having just a conversation over the phone with. If you're in an IEP meeting or just a team meeting and the topic is brought up, you want to make sure that you follow up by putting it in writing. So whenever you make a request for a recreational evaluation, you really want to make sure that you make it a formally written request. So you're going to write your child study team and say, I am formally requesting a recreational evaluation to investigate what other areas of need my child has, and so that we can develop appropriate goals, support services, related service, etc. in the IEP. Once you send that request in, there's a 20-day time period where the child study team really needs to respond. And so a lot of times what happens is they will say, let's go ahead and have a meeting and let's discuss this as a team. Now, that's good and well. And if you go to the meeting and the answer is yes, let's move forward, let's get this recreational evaluation, then wonderful. Everybody's on the same, same page and we're moving in an upward direction. In the event that there is not a clear answer or the answer is no, we're not going to provide a recreational evaluation, you want to keep a couple things in mind. I see a lot of times families go in, they have a request in writing, they have a child study team meeting, they go to meet with their child study team, and then they walk out of the meeting going, I'm not sure what we met about, and I'm not sure what the response was, and I'm not sure how they're going to address my concerns, and I don't think they approved the evaluation, but I'm not sure. And so if that's the case, you really want to make sure that you follow up immediately and say, listen, did you approve my request for the recreation evaluation? And if not, I need the prior written notice. On the other hand, if the answer is just a flat out no, then you still want to make sure that you are getting that written notice. And so what a written notice essentially is that anytime a district approves or denies a request that you've made in writing, and that's why I say to parents, make sure you put your request in writing, then they need to provide a written notice that explains why they denied the request. Right. So this is in the event that it's denied. You want to make sure that you understand what the rationale was, what the consideration was, and why it was ultimately denied. If it was approved, on the other hand, it should also still be in writing. But of course, in that situation, you're moving forward with the recreational evaluation.
So within the IEP, recreation-related services are typically done by a qualified person, such as a CTRS. So within the recreational therapy profession, there is not a national license requirement similar to PT/OT speech. There is a national certification that needs to be obtained, which is where the CTRS is derived from. And there are 5, almost 6 states that have state licensure. New Jersey is one of them. We do now have state licensure. We are just working on the process on finalizing and writing out the regulations and what that will look like. But so there will be at some point the availability for a licensed certified recreational therapist to provide services to individuals throughout New Jersey. There are currently there are hundreds of certified recreational therapists in this state that are qualified to provide these services. And when they are completing assessments and evaluations, it is being done by a qualified, educated, and certified clinician that has gone through all of the national required steps. So that's one thing that I do want to highlight, is that if you are being told that you are getting recreational therapy services, please make sure that it is by a CTRS and not by someone that just says that they are a recreational specialist or an activities professional. That is a completely different profession, and they have different qualifications. But for specifically recreational therapy, it must be provided by a CTRS. And the reason for that is, again, looking at all those domains, we want to make sure that when the clients and patients are being treated, that they're being treated properly and safely and with the highest quality of care possible. So looking at the different areas within the IEP can be done through a recreational service, and whether that's being done and implemented directly by a recreational therapist, or the recreational therapist is providing a modification plan in writing to somebody within the school to complete these standards within the IEP, but it has been evaluated and thought through and provided by a CTRS. So looking at assessing leisure interests and preferences, capacities, functions, skills, and needs, like I said before, looking at what those leisure interests are for each individual to make sure that they are able to complete and participate in their areas of interest as independently as possible. So whether that's being able to read in class, if they need a book holder, if they need something to help turn the page, if they need some sort of a light for visual impairments, something as far as participating in gym class, or again, after school care or before school programs and clubs, there is the opportunity to get accommodation requests and recommendations from a CTRS. Improving behavioral functioning with activities that improve anger control, respect, trust, stress management, relaxation, and teamwork. There are studies out there that show the benefits of recreational therapy being done in schools, where they're implementing certain adventure programs to work on anger control, mutual respect, stress management, things like that. There was a pilot study done at an urban school in the Bronx. And it was a 9-week program done by CTRS, a 9-week research program. And within those 9 weeks, the students showed significant reduction in their anger, significant increase in their respect towards their peers as well as the staff, and significant interest in finding healthier leisure outlets and leisure interests, and actually feeling like it was something that they were able to achieve and actively participate in. Providing instruction to develop the skills necessary for independence and recreational participation. Again, showing the individual and showing either other therapists or other service providers or faculty or even their family members how to support this individual in being able to participate in these leisure interests and opportunities. Improving physical functioning with activities for balance, coordination, motor planning, strength, endurance, and hand-eye coordination. All of that can be addressed in a variety of activities. For example, you can address all of those in an obstacle course. You can address all of those in, again, a soccer program, at a summer camp, in a STEM club before the child's school starts in the morning. It really depends on what they're working on, but all of those things can be done in fun and recreational activities and interventions. Improving cognitive functioning through activities that improve attention, problem solving, decision making, and creative expression. That's a big one that I like to focus on and highlight, is that creative expression. Doing something that has a loose structure where, okay, today we're building Legos, but just giving Legos out and seeing what they come up with. You're working on that fine motor skill. You're working on that ability to be able to complete a task, to take a task to completion. If you want to give instructions, giving them directions that they need to follow. So following in sequential order, or allowing them to just build what they want and being able to freely explore that creative essence that really kind of brings out intrinsic satisfaction. So all of these things can be done in a variety of ways within the school setting, and are just so beneficial as the individual grows and develops, and really should be looked at every day. So connecting educational goals with recreation, there's a variety of ways to do that. So there are certain verbiage that's included within the IEP that recreational therapy activities can meet and actually do meet. So looking at improving social interaction. The recreation activities can enhance communication and cooperation with peers. We run at Children's Specialist Hospital, I'll talk more about that later, but we run a number of social skill-based programs specifically working on peer-to-peer interaction, appropriate and effective communication, and I use appropriate loosely because everybody communicates differently, and looking at how to be inclusive as well. If we have a child who uses an AAC device because they are non-speaking, how do we include them in the activities and let them and encourage them to interact with their peers that are speaking and don't use devices, and also teach those students that are speaking that don't use devices to be patient and wait and allow that individual to express themselves and participate. So there's that really nice dynamic in an inclusive environment that we work on to be able to educate everybody and support everybody. Fine motor skills, again, games, arts and crafts, STEM activities, something as simple as coloring, writing, those are all things that recreational therapists can work on. Confidence, when you complete something that you're working on because you enjoy it, not so much because you're being told to do it, but you're showing an interest and you want to do it, and you have an interest in this area of leisure or specific area of focus. When you complete something, it just resonates out of you, right? If I complete some sort of painting, canvas painting activity, I love showing it off. And I might think that it's the greatest thing ever just because I did it, I completed it, and I'm just really proud of it. So you're working on that confidence and that self-satisfaction and self-efficacy with every individual that participates in these recreational activities. There's a big focus on stress and anxiety reduction. And a lot of that is also being able to be outside and learning what it means to be grounded and get outside in nature with recreation. So again, especially post-COVID pandemic, it's so important to get outside and not only be a member of your community and socialize, but also to just be outside, be one with nature, and sometimes just be on your own with your thoughts, learning breath control, grounding, taking in all of the benefits of being outside in nature, vitamin D and gross motor, strength, endurance, balance, coordination, all of those things that are important that you get from being outside. Teamwork and cooperation can be done through games and sports, but it can also be done through some sort of a tabletop activity. You could be working on a mural together as a group to be able to show to the rest of your school. You could be working on the same team. You could be working against your friend on an opposite team. And again, learning how to be a gracious winner and a loser, and not, sometimes not always getting your way is difficult. So just teaching all of those important components through fun. Verbal communication, again, whether it's verbal or nonverbal, how are we supporting the individuals to be able to take up that space and be able to communicate effectively their needs, their thoughts, their ideas? So that can also be done during presentations. It can be done while saying, look at what I just made, or look at what I just accomplished, because they participated in some activity prior. Problem solving is found in so many recreational activities, just different ones depending on what you're working on. Puzzles, strategizing together as a group. There are a number of obstacle courses that you can make where you're really enforcing and emphasizing that effective communication and patience and trust and being able to form a relationship with your peers. One of my favorite interventions to do is doing an obstacle course where one person is blindfolded and they have to listen to another person guide them through the obstacle course. That's really, really impactful and really powerful when you have peers that are struggling to be able to listen to each other and also feel like their voice is being heard and form a relationship together a little bit more organically. This kind of helps break down those barriers. And self-regulation, yoga, meditation, guided imagery, martial arts, again, being out in nature and just going for walks. Also, just within those, being able to identify when you need to take that step back and say, I need 5 minutes to myself. And what does that look like? What am I going to do in those 5 minutes to be able to regulate myself and be able to come back to a positive space? A lot of times we'll use with our kids, sure, you guys have heard of that, the traffic light where you explain your emotions, either red, yellow, green, and just having that awareness is huge for an individual, being able to say, I feel that I'm getting upset, or I am getting angry, or I am sad, and processing what that means, but then also how to work through it is huge, especially again, post-pandemic, mental health we know needs to increase. There's a lot of mental illness in youth right now. So these are huge, really important factors that continue on through the lifespan that it's important for our youth to learn in school and out of school. Just continuing on with goals, if there's an independence goal in their IEP, again, being a part of a community outing is so rewarding and satisfying, but also it's a lot of independence, right? If sometimes my leisure again is just going shopping by myself. And what does that look like for somebody either with or without a disability? Again, what is the accessibility of the place that they like to go? What are the accommodations? Can they manage money and do a transaction? Is there a budget that they need to be aware of? That could also just be grocery shopping, and being a either independent young adult or adult and doing that on your own, or being a part of the family. If you need to go out and support the family and you need to go do the grocery shopping or just run out and get milk and bread or whatever it is, we have a budget. This is our list. If you don't know where something is, ask a employee at the facility if they can help you find something. There's that social skill development as well, and being able to advocate for themselves is really important. Time management, being able to not only complete an activity within a given time frame, but also to understand and accept when it's time to move on and when it is time to stop a preferred activity. So we give a lot of our participants a lot of advanced notice when there is an incoming transition. We'll do a lot of either one more minute of this, and then we'll physically I will typically physically count down on my fingers, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, down to 1. We have visual timers, we have auditory timers. Sometimes we'll say, okay, we're going to do this activity 2 more times, and then we count down, okay, 1 more time. Okay, now we're all done. And in addition to saying we are wrapping up with this, and then we're going to do X. So we do a lot of first then language, and also letting them know that right now we're done with this activity that you loved doing. And I know that that's hard because it was so fun. We're going to move on to something else. And maybe when we're done, we can go back to that. We make sure that we don't provide empty promises, but we also let them know that we have something else that we have to get to. And if there's time, we will get back to that. And accepting that and learning that is really important because, again, it translates over into other areas of life. Gross motor, there are, again, so many ways that this can be addressed and worked on, but obviously it's important for so many different reasons. Like I said, as young as those babies, learning how to sit on their own, crawl, explore their environment, reaching outside their base of support and balance, that's going to trickle and affect how they grow and develop as they age. As a child playing sports, or even again, just sitting in a chair, being able to listen to the teacher or participate in an activity or be able to sit upright in a wheelchair is all very important. Being able to increase your strength and endurance, where if you are ambulating with a walker or a crutch or a cane, and being able to ambulate or walk a distance to be able to get from point A to point B, or to participate in anything that you'd like to do with a group or by yourself. You have those milestones that they're trying to meet, and there are different ways that we can work on those so that it's fun and engaging, and we're working on building that tolerance and that endurance and balance simultaneously. Attention span and focus. So there's a lot of ways that we can work on this through games and play and activities where we might be following directions over here, but somebody else might be talking to someone else, and you have to be able to divert your attention and your auditory processing to be able to continue listening and focusing on what you're doing. So I think the other one that I really want to focus on before we move on is positive behaviors and peer relationships. That affects us throughout the rest of our lives, right? We are just, as humans innately, are just social beings. So being able to have those connections and being able to maintain them and foster them is just so important and life-changing. So once a recreation evaluation is complete, the team needs to be as creative as possible to figure out how to implement these. So again, an actual recreation evaluation does need to be completed by CTRS, and there are multiple ways that the school or you as the family member can find that resource. So There are companies that contract with schools. There are individual therapists that can contract with schools. There are contracts with county park commissions that are able to provide referrals to a recreational therapist to complete the modification plans. But then you can also find outside organizations. So for example, I know the JCC in Scotch Plains provides inclusion coaches at their summer camps. The County Park Commission in Somerset and Monmouth counties have recreational therapists on staff, and they provide a host of different activities such as hippotherapy, nature programs, and then we provide a number of programs here at Children's Specialized that I can provide more details later on.
Okay, so when working with your child study team to get a recreation evaluation in place and to potentially get some related services that go with that, you want to make sure that you're thinking about how you communicate this need to your district. And so again, one of the first things I tell parents is make sure that you put that that request in writing. Really kind of go into your meetings with a very specific agenda in mind and stay on track, stay on point, and adhere to that agenda, right? Because what you don't want to do is to kind of go down a rabbit hole and start asking a lot of questions or get into a tit and tat and then lose focus of what it is that you're trying to learn or accomplish within the duration of that meeting. So ways that you can do that is really kind of list out your questions, make sure that you ask only one question at a time, wait for an answer, and then record that answer in your notes. Try not to go too much back and forth. There might be a couple follow-up questions, but again, you always have the opportunity to follow up later if you need to. Make sure that you're staying on track with all of the questions, concerns, and requests that you're going to be making throughout that meeting, and make sure that you have all that prepared ahead of time. Make sure that you're willing to collaborate. And it's funny because I talk to parents about the importance of being open and willing and, to engage in the collaborative process all of the time. Sometimes I see families that are really upset and have a hard time communicating what it is that they feel their child needs. And other times I see parents sort of shrink. And so what I like to tell families is do not minimize your concerns. Do not minimize what your child needs. Stay firm in those things, but be polite and be collaborative and be willing to listen and have an open dialogue. That doesn't mean that you're going to, become the quiet voice in the room and not express your concerns or express your child's needs, because it's very important that you do so and you are an equal team member. And make sure that when you're expressing what your child needs, that you're saying that exactly what they need, right? Because you don't want to equate it to something that you want or that they want, or say things like, I feel. If you are going down the path of feelings, which, listen, I'm a parent, so I understand what it is to have a gut instinct or, have your emotions take you someplace. And I'm certainly not going to be one that says that that's wrong. But what I will say is that you want to try and back that up with some sort of data, right? Rather it be work examples or the data or the information that you can collect from the district themselves, or it's you going through those evaluations. You just want to put a little bit more meat to your position in asking for what your child needs. So you want to back up anything that you're asking for with the use of some kind of data. And avoid asking yes or no questions. So again, if you are interested in having your child participate in the school play or in some sort of after school activity, be it sports or, a robotic program or whatever it might be, you don't want to ask, can they attend this class or be part of this club? You want to ask how. How are we going to get my child involved in the school play this year? And that is kind of how you want to direct your line of questioning, because you want to make it clear in a very a collaborative and polite way, but you want to make it clear that this is not an optional thing, that your child has the right to be involved in leisure activities and non-academic activities, as we just saw in some of the language that we pulled up from the IDEA. And so we really need to come together as a team and discuss in a collaborative way on how we're going to make sure that this child, your child, whatever child we're speaking of, has access to these things. And get creative. I mean, that is really sort of one of the most important things that any child study team really needs to come to the table with, be it school professionals or its parents themselves. Everyone sort of needs to put on their creative thinking hat. And to Caitlyn's point earlier, we're at a time where certain services are really hard to come by, right? So, we might be talking about a child that really could benefit from additional OT, additional speech, any of those types of things. But in a collaborative fashion, you might be able to go through the evaluations, and it's important that you have that evaluative piece, and you might pick out areas that you develop a goal for that could be addressed through recreational therapy. So this is just one other outlet, one other avenue that child study teams as a whole can start to explore. If your OT services are strapped and we can't quite find how to build in another OT session within the week for one child or 5 other children or whatever it might be, then can we go down the path of looking at bringing in a recreational therapist to carry out some of these goals, rather that goal be navigating playground equipment or learning how to manage their time. I know for older students, when they start transitioning from class to class, they have to really be able to figure out how to manage their class schedule and how to manage their time, or working in small groups. All of these are examples of ways that you can identify current goals or new goals that need to be developed within the IEP and link it to a recreational therapist. And the other thing I want to mention here is that in the IEP, there is a section that really talks about support services for the district staff or personnel, right? So it might not be that it becomes a related service and there's 3 times weekly with a certified recreational therapist. But maybe there's an opportunity to provide professional development. Maybe there's an opportunity to contract with some of the places that Caitlyn was mentioning and have consultation services available to people in the staff within the district. Maybe there's ongoing hands-on training. And so all of these things are things that you could talk about as a team, that you can explore and see if there's ways to connect the dots and build it into the IEP. So there is that element of, can we create a goal for any particular child that is functionally based, that is play based, or that is really about developing that social emotional component. And if those goals are not being addressed in traditional speech or through OT or any number of avenues, can we bring in a recreational therapist to help meet some of those goals? But on the other side of it, if it's not something where you're bringing in a recreational therapist in, maybe you can look at it in terms of professional development for the staff that's already in place. So those are all examples of ways you can sort of bring creativity into the meeting room as you develop that IEP. Okay, and again, this just kind of goes back to what Caitlyn had been mentioning earlier. If the school is limited, because we do want to recognize that that's a real concern, especially in today's world, right? If your school is limited in what is available, you can go down the path of saying, listen, if there's a proven need, then we need to find a way to meet the need for this child, right? Whatever child we're talking about. But you can also get really creative in other ways, like looking at your YMCAs and your JCCs. I'll give you an example of my child when she was younger and she was going into her ESY program. One of the things I was mostly concerned about was all of her social emotional goals. So in her IEP, there were a lot of goals about exactly what Caitlyn was describing, interaction with her peers, greeting her peers in the morning, all of that kind of stuff. But because of the nature of the ESY program, it didn't seem like there was going to be those opportunities for her. So the team and I came together and we brainstormed. And what we did was we partnered with our local recreational department in our town, and we were able to send my child to some summer camps that would give her those social emotional opportunities, and the school had the aide attend those camps so that she can work on facilitating some of the goals that were in the IEP. And I want to underscore again the importance of making sure that those are goals, right? So we want to go beyond just saying, hey, my child has the right to attend this club. That's good and we want to get there, but we also want to link it to a goal, because that's what's going to enable us to get creative and find things like those recreational summer camp opportunities, but B, really employ some of the strategies that we need and then monitor the progress and continue to make progress based off of the data that we collect. Okay. I think yeah. Okay, and so the other thing is there a group of parents or caregivers that you want within your district that you want to become more involved and help have opportunities, so that your local community can create something, right? So I think of a lot of CPAGs in this moment. And for those of you who might not know, CPAGs are special education and parent advocacy advisory groups. And these are state mandated, district level, parent driven groups that are really charged with the responsibility to provide input on a district level regarding system challenges as it relates to special education. And it requires both district staff and parents to be involved. And so again, putting on that creative thinking hat, can a CPAG maybe come together and identify a group of kids that want to do something? Maybe it's karate. That's another example of something that happened here locally. There was a group of parents within the CPAG group that, they really wanted their children to have access to karate lessons. So they came together, they worked with district staff, they found something local that would allow them to develop a karate class, and everybody was involved, right? So the district was involved in seeing what they can do on their end, and all of the parents came to the table as well to see what they can do on their end. So you really want to think about, are there any sort of parents or caregivers that could receive training? Going back to what I said earlier in terms of professional development, it's also very possible to get parent training, right? And that could be something that's written into the IEP. So there are all kinds of ways to achieve some of these things. And I think that that's the big takeaway that I'm trying to drill home, is that there is no one singular path to achieve a goal in an IEP. There's no one singular path in getting a recreational therapy or a recreational evaluation completed. There's just different ways to think about it and to kind of formulate a plan. And so we really kind of encourage that creative thinking.
So I will give you a brief overview of what our department does at Children's Specialized Hospital. We are called the Activity Connection Department, and we are a group of CTRS that provide and lead adapted and inclusive recreational programs. So the CTRS are the ones that are typically leading the programs, and then we have recreational assistants that are there as a second staff member to help out. And then we have hospital volunteers that are in attendance as well to provide a little bit more one-to-one support for the participants while the CTRS is leading. So there's a lot of adult hands that are able to support and provide guidance and maintain, attention to task and just interact with the participants as well. The programs run year round. We're based in Mountainside, but we provide programs in Mountainside, New Brunswick, and then even down at the Toms River Field of Dreams complex. And that complex specifically provides our most outdoor program opportunities. Everything else is more indoors. And then we also partner with Kane University a couple times a year, and we provide programs there on the campus in Union. Our participants are ages 1 to 21, individuals of all abilities. We do encourage that our programs are inclusive and encourage either siblings or friends or classmates that do not have a disability to participate with within our programs as well. And the main focus on all of our programs is just that peer-to-peer social interaction, managing behaviors, physical exploration, and then just having fun and exploring new leisure interests. The programs run year-round, weeknights and weekends, and then we have a few summer camps that we offer as well. Our most popular program is our adaptive aquatics program that runs in Mountainside and New Brunswick. And then we have a parent-child play group, social club, teen night programs that are all social interaction based and social skill development based. They're broken down by age group so that it's more developmentally appropriate. And then we have a Friday Night Fever program that goes out into the community where they get to have just those typical teen and young adult experiences that you get on a Friday night, whether we're going bowling or going to the movies, or we've gone to the Wax Museum in New York City a few years ago. So we just like to do a lot of different fun experiences and adventures with that group. And then our summer camps, we have a 2-week day camp that runs in the Mountainside area, and that's for children ages 6 to 16 of all abilities. Again, it's inclusive and it is not diagnostic specific, and that's just like your run-of-the-mill day camp where it's outdoor activities, field games, indoor games, arts and crafts, STEM, that kind of stuff with some special visitors. Our 1-week overnight camp in August is called Camp Chatterbox, and that is a camp where we partner with speech therapists for individuals that use AAC devices as their primary means of communication, as well as their family members. There is a family program component to that camp as well. So the campers are getting speech therapy in the morning and learning how to use their devices more independently and more confidently. And then they take those skills that they learn and they apply them to the recreational activities that occur throughout the rest of the day, whether it's being able to guide some sort of an activity that they want to do that they've created. But also there's those other camp opportunities where we go nature hiking and we go swimming every day. And a lot of those things are done together with the families and the camp staff all together. And then our newest overnight camp is called True Grit SCI. That is a 1-week overnight camp for adolescents, ages 16 to 21 with a spinal cord injury. And that is our CTRS in collaboration with OT and PT. And we host that at the Rutgers University in Piscataway. And that's really just trying to explore, again, just different recreational leisure and also occupational areas and avenues following a spinal cord injury. So we did this past summer was our first year that we launched that week, and we did adapted boxing, wheelchair basketball, adapted driving, cooking. We went somewhere and learned how to do 3D printing, and then we just hung out and had the participants interact with each other, and there was a lot that they found that they could relate on. So there was a huge social piece where they found a new community, and a lot of them since then, just in 5 days, there were huge improvements that were noted by the participants. So we do a lot of different things all year, but everything is done by a CTRS and focuses on a lot of different domains. So Amanda, Adrian, and I would like to thank you so much for your attention. And Adrian, I'll let you close out, but I appreciate it very much.
Sure, and I know we're just a couple minutes over, but if you wouldn't mind, both of you really quickly, if you could just let your email addresses are here up on the screen, but what supports you could provide families or staff or schools, organizations, either one of you, as we close out today's session. We'll start with you, Amanda.
So I'm an educational advocate. I work privately, and I work through the law firm Barger and Gaines. I'm a non-attorney advocate, and really I'm there to support the family anytime that there's educational concerns. It runs the gamut, rather it be a family trying to get their child to be found eligible for an IEP, trying to seek independent evaluations, or tightening up on the IEP. I call it IEP curing, meaning I'm trying to look at the evaluations and link the results of evaluations to appropriately developed goals. A lot of times it's just consulting and trying to figure out, how do we develop those goals, and how do I properly define what the specially designed instruction looks like. So I'm really kind of there to support the family and walk them through the whole educational process. I work with families all the way from typically age 3, so preschool disabled, into all the way until transitioning into whatever their post-secondary career looks like.
Thank you. And Caitlin?
I am a recreational therapist. I manage the department, but I am also a therapist. So I can help connect families with our activity connection services, and make sure that we get you registered for the most appropriate program that might be of interest to your child. But I can also help advocate for getting recreational therapy services for your child outside of our programs. We do inclusion assessments for Somerset County Park Commission, meaning that the municipalities within Somerset County can do a referral request from the parent. After the parent requests it, they submit basically a referral form to us. We contact the families, we do a recreation evaluation, and we provide recommendations to the township staff that are providing that recreation program on how to include your child in that. So whether it's township basketball, summer camp, soccer, whatever it is, we are able to provide therapeutic recommendations to be able to include your child in that program. And if you are interested and would like us to come speak to your school's PTA or PTO, whatever your school calls it, on the importance of rec therapy and why it should be included in your school or in your school district, I would love to be able to have that opportunity to advocate for the profession to be able to support your child.
Thank you. Thank you for all. Bill, I see. Do you have any questions as we close up today?
No questions. Excellent presentation.
Thank you. Well, we hope you have a fun day, and thank you very much for joining us. And hopefully you will be able to use all of the materials that you learned about today and share them with others, so we can help our kids build their skills and have fun. Thank you very much.